Hi, Year Nines. We thought we'd change it up a bit this lesson, and instead of Miss Waters, you've got me, Mr. Johns, doing the glaciation lessons. So, title for today is we're going to carry on looking at how landforms that we see around us in the UK and Europe and beyond are shaped by glacial erosion. First thing though, write the title and then pause the video and go and do, or log in to do the Google Forms quiz. This one is out of 8 and it's checking your knowledge and understanding from last lesson. So if you just pause the video and do the Google Forms quiz. So what we're looking at today then is a few of the more of the glacial erosion landforms that you will find that have been caused by glaciation in the past. And the ones we're going to look at today are U-shaped valleys, hanging valleys, truncated spurs, ribbon lakes, and fjords. So we're going to go through where you find these and how they're formed, and hopefully by the end of it you'll be able to link together some of the processes that Miss Waters has gone through with you, and then some of the landforms that you actually see in places like Snowdonia and the Brecon Beacons and the Alps. So, U-shaped valleys then, they are probably the biggest, most dramatic change to the landscape caused by glacial erosion. You can't miss them. They're these huge valleys, steep sides, flat bottoms. And as these Corrie glaciers that Miss Waters taught you about last time move out of their Corrie and down the valley, they will dig away and erode the ground. And eventually they all form in this huge valley, a bit like a river flowing into a main channel. And as they do that, they erode away and they wear away the deep V-shaped river valley that's already there and start making it into a U-shape. Now, if you watch the YouTube clip that's on here, I'll make sure it's attached to the classroom as well, because I know sometimes it can be hard to type it in and get it working correctly. If you watch that, there's someone who tells you about U-shaped valleys and what they look like, who's even more ridiculously excited about them than I am. So if you watch that, pause the video and then come back to this. Okay then, so here in these diagrams we can see how a U-shaped valley gets formed. So the top diagram shows a typical upland area with a V-shaped valley which is being caused by a river eroding down through. Now, rivers are fairly powerful, but they can't go through rock as quickly as ice can. So they tend to weave their way around and create a steep but V-shaped valley. When the Ice Age came in, obviously that filled all these valleys full of ice, and they were heavy and they plucked away and they eroded and wore away the rock until you ended up, after the ice had then melted, with these huge, deep, U-shaped valleys, and these what are called hanging valleys, where the rivers seem to flow down and then just suddenly drop over the edge, creating waterfalls. Now, obviously the river didn't create the valley, so what you end up with is a river in the bottom of this huge valley, which doesn't seem to fit. There's no way it could have eroded that much, and it's called a misfit river, because it clearly doesn't belong in that valley. So these two pictures clearly show a V-shaped and then a U-shaped valley. So the one on the left is a V-shaped valley in India, and you can see that the river has, over many, many years, has eroded down, and in the bottom of that V-shaped valley there, winding its way around those interlocking spurs, is a river. Now, the one in the right would have looked like that originally, but due to huge glacier sat in it during the Ice Age, that's worn it away, cut off and truncated those spurs and created this U-shaped valley. So the first task I'd like you to do is have a look at those two pictures and try and explain how they are similar and how they are different. So think about the steepness of the valley side, think about the valley floor, think about what's found in the bottom, in the base of that valley. So try and give as much detail to explain the differences and similarities between those two pictures. If you pause the video now, probably spend about 5 minutes, on that trying to give a really detailed answer. Okay, so we've talked about U-shaped valleys, and I mentioned hanging valleys as well. Now, where the huge main glacier is moving slowly down, eroding away, it creates two more features, and you can see them in this small diagram here. So where you had interlocking spurs like this, coming from either side of the valley and the river winding its way, the huge glacier has completely eroded those away. And that's created something called truncated spurs. So you can see that labeled on the diagram. Also, because it's, the river used to flow down into a river channel, and now it's been cut off by the glacier, the river goes over the edge and falls down into the main valley as a waterfall. And those are called hanging valleys. Okay, so here we can see two more features, two more landforms, hanging valleys and truncated spurs that are formed by glaciation. So what I'd like you to do now is, using your sketch skills, see the diagram on the left there. I want you to create an accurate and tidy sketch of that. And then try and label those 5 landforms that we've talked about so far. So you can see they're all numbered, and in the box just above my head, you can see you've got 5 features: hanging valley, U-shaped valley, misfit river, truncated spurs, and waterfall. So try and accurately annotate your sketch with those in the correct place. And then once you've done that, see if you can write a paragraph to explain how all these landforms occur using all of the 5 words. Okay, so try and explain how they were created by the glaciers. Okay, so if that means you've got to sort of rewind back and watch any of it again, then try and do that and just write a nice detailed paragraph using all 5 keywords to explain the formation of these landforms. So if you pause and spend maybe 5-6 minutes doing that activity. So this picture, it's useful to be able to get your head around what it actually looks like. So here we can see a U-shaped valley. This one's got a lake in it, but you can see on the left there where you've got rivers flowing into the valley, and they would have flown, they would have flown straight into a river in the past, but now they're coming out as waterfalls because they've been left high above the valley floor due to the erosion from the glacier. Sometimes when a glacier is moving down the valley during an ice age, it erodes some of the valley floor deeper than other parts. And when it finally melts and we come out of an ice age, it will leave these small rivers in there called ribbon lakes. Not rivers, lakes. Small lakes called ribbon lakes. And these fill these deeper, narrow troughs in the flat valley floor. And you get a lot of these in the Lake District. So in the picture there, you can see Buttermere and Crummock Water, which is an example of a ribbon lake in the Lake District. Okay, so final thing for us to think about this lesson is something called fjords. Now these are really cool. So fjords it's a Norwegian word, and they are flooded glaciated valleys. And they're found in places where current or past glaciation occurred below the sea level. So when the glacier retreats, when its sort of ice age finishes and it starts to melt, it leaves that typical U-shaped valley. But the sea will start to, because sea levels are also rising because of the ice melt. So the sea starts to fill the valley floor. And then you get these narrow, steep-sided inlets that are really deep, sometimes as much as 1,300 meters. And they're connected to the sea. So they stick out like fingers into the sea. Now, fjords are Norwegian. That's where the name comes from. And they have one of the most amazing fjord coastlines in the world. The hundreds of different fjords along their coast. And you can also see hanging valleys and truncated spurs. In other countries, they're known as sounds. So there's a famous one in New Zealand called Milford Sound, which I was lucky enough to visit about 10 years ago. And it's formed in exactly the same way. Now, if you watch these 2 YouTube clips now, the first one talks about the formation of fjords, and the second one is just basically an amazing, completely just music, no talking, but it just goes over some fjords in Norway, and it's just an amazingly beautiful clip. Okay, so I'll add those to the Google Classroom as well, so that you don't have to try and copy them, because sometimes I know there can be mistakes. Just thought I'd add these because there's some pictures here of Milford Sound, and you can see how amazing that place is. So if any of you ever get a chance to go to New Zealand, make sure, as well as doing bungee jumping and skiing and all the other amazing things you can do there, make sure you do a trip to Milford Sound as well. Okay guys, so hopefully you've managed to complete the activities for this lesson. If you need to go back through, you can obviously rewind and complete any tasks. You'll need to upload that work, but as well as that, make sure you make a note of the score you got out of 8 in the first quiz, and then have a go at this Google form quiz now to see how well you've understood the work during this lesson. This one's out of 10, so if you can let us know when you upload your work, what you got in the first one out of 8 and what you scored in this one out of 10. All right, well, it's good to see you all today, and hopefully it won't be too long before we're seeing you back in the classroom. Don't forget that options are coming up as well, so make think carefully about which subjects you want to carry on doing in year 10 and 11. And if you do have any questions about geography in particular, obviously you can ask Miss Waters or myself by email at any time. Right, see you later guys, bye.